Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello, and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. Ladies, today our VIP featured guest. Well, we can just say she has been there, done that, and conquered it all. She is all things grit, grace, bold, and beautiful, and most definitely the one you're going to want to sit by at any party. Her adventurous spirit, hands-on experience, and vibrant personality. I tell you what, she has a story or two to tell, and I just admire her so much ever since the day we met. She's one of those that you see across the room and you get to know, and you're just like, man, she's just so cool. So help me welcome Sheila Phalen-Miller to the show. Hello, Sheila.
Hey, Amber. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I am super excited to have you here with us as you share your Silhouette of Success story with us. So once again, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
All right, milady, to help illustrate the early shapings of your Silhouette of Success, let's begin by having you share a little bit about your background with the audience.
Sure. So I'm 38 right now. I was born in 84 in Omaha, Nebraska, and have a couple siblings, sister and a brother, both older. I was raised in a single mother home and ended up being a high school dropout for a little bit, but got back into school, got my diploma, and went right to work. College wasn't really an option for me. And I had to get money. So I hopped right into the workforce and ended up in title and escrow and started off answering the phones, just very basic, transferring to whoever the caller was calling for, and ended up working my way from writing title reports to doing the closings for real estate transactions. So did that for a handful of years. I had different companies coming after me because I kind of mastered the power of networking. And so I had a really nice book of business. And people were kind of learning that and asking me to come work for their teams and things like that. But in that marketplace, it caps, there's not a commission schedule, and it caps out your salary cap out. And I just kept getting busier and busier and working more and more, but not making any more money, and which kind of seemed a little silly to me. And so I went to my leadership at the current time and told them, hey, I keep getting more and more. I keep getting busier and busier. I'm in here on Saturdays now, half a day, and I want you to start paying me commission if you want me to keep going at this rate, because I don't see it stopping. And they kind of chuckled at me, and that's when I made a decision that I needed to move into a career space that allowed me the ability to earn according to my effort. And so at that time, I went from a salary making my bills to a $0 commission only sales job, selling security, video surveillance, and automation, and access control and alarms as a small business representative. This was still in Omaha, Nebraska. And I made $0 an hour unless I sold something. And I didn't sell anything for 3 months. And that is very unusual. That's like, you're really bad at what you're doing. But what I did do was gather up all of my contacts from my title and escrow world and get them start spreading my name. And so soon enough, through those 90 days of doing that, I was getting referral business, which I was able to learn how to close. And once I closed my first transaction, it was just kind of up from there. I ended up becoming one of the top sales reps in the company in that category after my first year, and made about $5,000 or $6,000 more than I was accustomed to making. So that was a plus for me. Carried that on for about a total of 18 months when they asked me to take over the management job in the market. And so I did that, and that exposed me to a whole lot. It was a big region. So all the way from Texas up to, Minnesota and over to like the Illinois area. And so I got to meet a lot of people within the organization that, worked in bigger markets and things like that. And so, right out the gate, being a manager in Nebraska, I thought, well, this isn't where I'm going to stop. I'm going to get to Denver, Dallas, or Chicago or something like that and work in a bigger market. And so I worked really diligently learning the basics of management, how to work with people, which is in management usually the hardest part. It's not necessarily knowing the business of what you're doing. That is also very important. But learning how to navigate people is what you really have to learn how to become an expert at. So, and I certainly was no expert after my first year. I had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. But I ended up finishing that year really well as the number one manager in that category. And then they asked me to move to Dallas. So I came to Dallas and took over a team here in Dallas. I'm still in Dallas. And I did that for about 7 years, had a lot of good success there. And then moved into a different division at a senior manager role. And then after a couple years in that, I moved into a regional director role. I had half of the company or half of the country and about 82 clients that worked for me, and worked alongside a lot of the executives and the executive level in this company. And lots of travel, lots of experiences, lots of business management. It was a really great role to get a lot of exposure and learn a lot of things and continue that work on navigating people and learning how to best get the results you need out of having good rapport and good relationships with people. Then after I was in that role for a while, my husband, who had been at the same company for 22 years, had been laid off, and we had moved to Florida for a new job for him a couple of years before. And so we decided to go into business for ourselves and use the opportunity to come back to Plano. So we were in Orlando, Florida. We wanted to come back to Plano. We were there for that job. So, this is our opportunity to kind of get back. So we ended up opening a dessert restaurant called Better Than Sex, a dessert restaurant in downtown Plano. And we opened 5 months before the pandemic. While in Florida, we had twins, and we also had a young son. So this was a big deal, moving everybody across the country, starting up a business. And it was a lot of effort and a lot of pain and sacrifice and huge investment. Basically every dollar that we had saved for the future, for retirement, plus a couple pieces of real estate that we had for rental properties. We had to sell those. And so we went all in on this. And we opened September 2019, very excited, on time. And our location looked amazing. We were booked out for the entire duration of grand opening weekend. It was a success, and we're humming along, trying to scrape by and make it, as all new businesses do, especially the restaurant industry. And we crash landed into March of 2020, which was when they shut all businesses down due to the pandemic. And we chalked everything up to, we're bankrupt. We've lost everything. We invested in something that we can't get out of. And now what do we do? So we didn't make any drastic changes or anything, but we had kind of accepted our fate, I guess, which I'm sure you can imagine, being a mom, that when you realize that you squandered every penny that you'd ever worked hard for and saved to give your kids a great life is gone. It was, really a very a really terrible time, really. So high anxiety, high stress, disappointment, just ready to pack it all up, get rid of everything, get your van and drive it down by the river. That's what we were ready to do. So we ended up taking the last dollars that we had in our operating account and going to Sam's and picking up just a bunch of noodles and ground beef or sausage and things like that. And our thought was, well, at least we have food on the table tonight. There's a lot of people that don't. And so even though we feel like we lost everything, and we kind of have, more than likely, there are people that have, a harder situation than even us today. Single parents that still had to go to work to their essential jobs, but had kids at home because they couldn't go to school, and their after school programs were, not happening, things like that. So we just wanted to do what we could. And so we took the last, I think it was $750 and bought all that stuff, all that food and to-go packaging. And we put on Facebook that we were handing out free meals to anyone in need, no questions asked, to show up at our door at 6:00 and we'd have them ready. And we had about 150 to 200, maybe even 250. I can't even remember, but I know it was right around that 200 mark, and we had them all ready to go, or we were packaging. And when we opened the door, we had a line that went down the street. And I thought, oh gosh, I didn't even know if we would have anybody show up or, whatever. But everybody was sharing the post that we had made, and we did a live, and we were trying to be kind of funny on it and, making the best of a bad situation, and inviting people, no questions asked, just show up. And so what we saw there were a lot of people that were in need, but we also had people show up and hand us cash. And we were kind of like, okay, that's unexpected. And so we took that cash and we did the same thing again. And we said, as long as we're doing this, because we didn't know how long the world would kind of be shut down, or in our market, how long we'd be shut down. We're like, all right, well, as long as, people are coming in to donate, which they were donating to us to try to help us stay open. We said, we're going to take this money and we're going to rebuy supplies and food, and we're going to keep handing out food. And so that's exactly what we did. And we did this about 3 or 4 times until they announced that we could reopen. And then what we saw when we reopened was so many people behind us and championing us because, we had stuck our neck out there as a new business. I'm sure they assumed we had nothing, and we didn't, as trying to do something to help. And literally, we were just looking at it as, we may as well spend this last bit of money on a good cause, because this is it. So it ended up working out for us in a way we didn't expect, with exposure and word of mouth and things like that. And so after reopening, even though we had, 25% occupancy, 50% occupancy, all that they did for a while, we were filling up surely but surely. And we scraped by, and we were able to, we're still alive today. So we've made it. Everything's steady, and we've got great reviews online, and we finally have a solid team, which took some time after losing everybody. But we've scraped, clawed, and we're still here. And the kids are, having nice summer days with their mom, and we're just getting by every day. It's a lot better scenario today than it was a couple of years ago. So,
okay, girl, wow. Right when you think you know somebody. Oh my gosh, Sheila, that's incredible.
Thanks. It's crazy to talk about, honestly, because you don't quite remember how everything goes down until somebody kind of asks you. And then, I'm sure you're probably like, looking for a 2 minute, maybe 2 minutes, probably a 2-line background there. And then I just throw 25 years at you.
No, I mean, it's phenomenal. So okay, I always say this, and I know I probably say it in every episode, and that's okay. I don't care, because it's true and it's important. I just have a page and a half of notes on different things about you that I was absolutely clueless, not surprised, but had no clue. And why would I, right? I mean, these are intimate details of your Silhouette of Success backstory. But oh my God, girl. So I did not realize, and I didn't see that post, but just the blessings that both you gave to the community, and then they're giving back to you and your husband and your family, and your team at the restaurant. That is amazing.
It really was. And it was completely, unintended. So it was really, a nice thing to see. And, about a year and a half later, we had gotten, I wouldn't say negative press, because it's not negative press. So I think all press is good unless it's, against the law, things like that. But we do these silly chalkboards on the outside of the building, and they use innuendo and puns and things like that. And we had somebody we did a chalkboard that was really funny, in my opinion. But and most people thought it was incredibly funny, but there was a couple people who thought it was inappropriate. And so there was a huge blow up online about it with about 500 comments. And one of the comments was from a guy who said, "This is one of the only businesses we saw step up and try to do something when they were an underdog. And because of them, it's the only reason why I had anything to feed my kids. So back off," type of thing. And I couldn't believe it. That was, a year and a half or about a year and a half later. And I had no idea that guy's story. We just gave him some food. That's all we did. And then, here he comes pop up and tells, his truth. And, to know that there's probably a couple more of those stories out there is kind of like, that was exactly what we were trying to do. That was it. And, we were in turn blessed for that. And I'm completely thankful for that. But that was a cool experience.
Again, okay, so audience, I'm completely thrown. I'm not surprised. And, I remember some postings that you all did, and, I went and picked up a cake, and I was excited, and I was like, yay, a cake. And it's, at the front door, and I get to do like my morsel. But I had no concept that you all were doing that you had done that. It's ginormous. And you're right. You don't realize whether it's a smile in passing somebody on the street, or as you all did, you fed hundreds of people, and you don't know their stories. And like you did, that it's not important. It's something that was important to you both and your family. And you blessed 1,000-fold, 10,000-fold, probably. Wow. Okay. All right, girl. So throw out the script. We're not going off questions anymore. Oh my gosh. So you talked about early on in your career, or going into the workforce, school of hard knocks, right? Life. Mm-hmm. You went to life's education, and raising my hand to that as well. And something you said early when you first got on with us is, just going through and answering the phone, just the very basics. But I tell you what, those very basics are foundational blocks that I think you can probably tie back to so many different experiences.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're putting yourself out there you don't know exactly what's going to come across the line, and being the face for a business is important. It doesn't matter what role you're in. I am a firm believer. It does not matter people's titles. Everybody, is equal in my eyes. I'm no better as a business owner as the person that's baking cakes. I am no better as a business owner as the person that's, greeting people at the host stand at our restaurant. It does not matter. We are all people, and every job you do, it does not matter. The level is just as important as every other job in the place. And I'm very much humble in that manner. And I don't work quite well with others who aren't. I'm sure you've worked with some folks that, because of their status or their level, it's kind of, they're on this level or have this type of attitude. I believe that actually serves you opposite, or does destruction to your ultimate success. And, so I think people should be proud to do their best in any role that they're in. If you commit to a role and you need to do it, you need to do it well, and you need to do it to the best of your ability. And then on the other side of that, if you're not very good at it, admit it and ask to do something else. There's a lot of respect that goes into understanding our shortcomings, as far as our abilities go. I'm not good at everything. I can tell you that right now. And I know exactly what I'm not good at. And I'm okay with saying that out loud, and my team knows what I'm not good at. And that's why you find people around you that help plug in pieces where you're not the best at, which is what makes a great team.
There's a couple of things. Okay, well, there's tons of things in my notes from what you shared. That just the characteristics of you that I'm picking out. And again, full transparency for the audience. I've known Sheila for a little bit. We don't hang out every weekend. We were leadership mates, right? But from afar and observing her and just always, she lights me up anytime I see her or see something that's going on in her world. But some of the characteristics that you're just very authentic. There's no need to be anything different. And I'm listening to you talk earlier about the conversation that you had back when you were wanting to go from salary to commission. Okay, that took some gusto. How did you, because again, we're here to share different things with our audience. How did you have that conversation? Did you have to talk yourself into, building up the courage to do it? Was it natural for you? Was it something that you had to do so there was no choice for any fear?
Yeah, I definitely was not comfortable doing that, but I also understood that the company I was working for was just, they kept getting more and more and more from me, but I was getting less and less and less from them and for myself. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about my time, working extra hours into the evening and on the weekend. And, this all benefits their business, but I'm the one sacrificing. And I still remember going into this gal's office who was the decision maker in the business. I had a stomach ache about it. I didn't feel good about it. I didn't sleep the night before. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to ask for this or ask for consideration. And I think that they're at least going to entertain it because it makes logical sense. And it was just straight up a chuckle, and that was it. I mean, it wasn't even like, hey, let me talk to, so-and-so and, let's sit down and kind of really look at this thing and what you've got going on and whatever. It was a chuckle. And that's when, that told me everything I needed to know. And then at that point, I was very thankful that I had gotten the guts to do it. And I knew that I had made the right decision. I'm huge on self-advocation when it's warranted and justified. I also understand that some people, kind of think highly of themselves, and you really have to have a good sense of, your surroundings and understanding all sides as best as possible when you do something like that. Because you are kind of putting yourself out there. You absolutely are. And, you don't know what their perception might be after. But if you have a good case and a logical case, there should be some consideration in what you're doing. That doesn't mean you're going to get your way. But, at least a discussion. So that was, but that told me everything I needed to know. And when I went to interview for the commission only sales job, I met this woman who was absolutely phenomenal. She was a single mom, which of course I connected with how I grew up. And this woman was just all about doing the right thing for people, taking care of people, and building success. And that's the complete opposite of what I had just experienced with where I was working. And so that helped definitely, give me the confidence to make that transition. So I also believe that who you work for is so important. Leaders and managers can make or break an organization, and they can make or break good people. And so all of that just happened all by design. And I'm huge on that too. Timing, design, life, I do believe, has a lot of things set out for you as long as you accept those opportunities as they arise. You got to pay attention to what God's doing out there for you.
True. Amen to that. True that. As an independent business owner, mom and wife, where do you turn to for support?
I am very spiritual. I attend Fellowship Church at Young's Church there in Grapevine. I have for really since I moved to Dallas. They have a lot of great programs and a lot of great things, even when I can't get there online, and as a business traveler for years and years and years, sometimes by the time I got home, I can't turn around and go to church. I'm just too tired and never a good reason, but just need to take a time out in order to get back into it. But be able to get back into it on Monday morning when they're expecting me at work. So really mainly that, and not just that church, but, other leaders out there. I read spiritual books. I always turn to spiritual books, guidance and learnings and readings. That's first. My husband's a great support, of course, but, humans on earth can only do so much for people. Even though he supports me 100%, am I going to get my answers from him? No. He reaffirms a lot the things that I'm thinking and the things that I'm kind of sensing are right for my life. But ultimately, I get my knowledge and my decision making comes from God above.
Since I said we were off script now, girl, I'm going to kind of go forward and take what you just shared and have you expand on that maybe if you can for a second, because we all share great resources that inspire or uplift or expand our minds. So talking about that, you mentioned spiritual books. Do you have any favorites that you'd want to share with us or any resources? What do you read, or maybe what's a recent book that you've read that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, so I have one that I read in particularly after we had spent all of our money and all of our effort into opening a business and having it crash land with the pandemic. And actually, I just pulled it out yesterday to give it to my husband because he's got some stuff kind of going on with him. And, I can't fix that. So I handed him this book. Our dog had actually eaten half of the back cover off, which is always awesome. But it's called It's Not Supposed to Be This Way by Lisa Terkeurst. It's Terkeurst. Because, the whole way that going into business for ourselves and how it was supposed to go, it didn't go any of that. And so I was really struggling, mental health wise and confidence wise. And so I leveraged this. Also, at Fellowship Church, they have a praise and worship team called Fellowship Creative. Great. They're putting out new music all the time, and it's on Amazon Music. So I listen to that on a regular basis. I drive a convertible, and I have no shame saying that I drive around DFW blasting Fellowship Creative, depending on the day and what I've got going on. And also, Ed Young, the lead pastor there, is a New York Times bestseller. So I have a couple of his books as well. There's one that he wrote called No Fear. It's KNOW, fear. And that's really good for folks who just kind of maybe think that, or just having a level of understanding of, how things happen in their life and why. And, you can't lean on the human next to you to fix your problems. It all resides within yourself. And you got to be a good you before you can be a good you to anybody else. And so that's what I try to really kind of keep my mind focused on.
Sheila, for you personally, or as a business woman, owner, female in general, mom, wife, where and when do you feel the greatest sense of satisfaction?
When my bills are paid and I have time to play with my kids without worry. Worry about staffing, worry about money, worry about, just everything there is out there to worry about. I know that my life is great and things are going real well, when I can just be in peace and contentment, no matter what it is that I'm doing. And that's how I know I'm doing the right things, is when I do feel that. When things aren't going so great, I'm not going to feel that way so much. So I kind of look at those times as, okay, I'm doing the right things. I've got my ducks in a row. I've got my life in order. And that's where I really find satisfaction, is just knowing I'm okay without, being active and doing stuff.
All right, milady, I'm watching the clock here and want to definitely respect your schedule. So once again, it is always a treat talking with you and visiting with you. And as we begin to wrap up and keeping the promise with our audience to share intentional inspiration, is there a piece of key go-to advice that you'd like to share with the audience?
I have a couple things. I mean, I think people should always be transparent and authentic, being true to themselves. And then I always have a motto I share with myself. I live by myself, and I share with anyone who works around me, with me, or for me. And that's never half-ass anything. Always give your whole ass. And if you can't give your whole ass, take your ass home.
There's the Sheila. Oh, I love that. That's amazing. That is awesome.
Not the most PC, but
But hey, again, didn't we say authentic, right?
That's right.
Say authentic. Oh, that's really cool. All right. I'm going to have to post that above everything. That's so cool. Good for you. Oh, I love it. Okay. Sheila, the stage is yours. Where can our audience go to either find and connect with you or support you on your socials and your continued success?
Yeah, absolutely. So our restaurant is online on Facebook and on Instagram. Better Than Sex, a dessert restaurant, Dallas/Plano. And then I am also on Facebook as well, Sheila Phalen-Miller. And that's really about it. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm not too active though, but mainly Facebook and Instagram.
Perfect. And we'll be sharing that contact and those links in the resource section. And I'll tell you what, audience, it's not a bad gig that she has either. She lives in Valentine's Day, lives and works in Valentine's Day every day. And so you'll have to definitely go check out their restaurant and support them. All right, my lady. Sheila, thank you so much once again for sharing a portion of your silhouette of success with us. You have definitely been a light and inspiration for me, and I'm pretty confident for so many other ladies and females out there. So thank you once again.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Amber. Thanks for being my friend.
Thank you for being a friend. Yes, absolutely. Very fortunate to have you in our world. So thank you, my lady.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out and join us for all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. Amber would love to hear from you, and you can find her on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or head over to amberweitzer.com. Let's connect. Help us all shine and leave us a review too. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at amberweitzer.com. We are honored, humbled, and full of joy that you've tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success.